Hey there, boys and girls. Welcome to this week's episode of Hollow Weekly. Nick and George here with the best horror films of the decade.
Our favorite horror films of the decade.
I will
You'll
fight
for
anyone.
best?
I will
Alright,
fight
let's
for
do it.
best. Anyone says nay to this list, they're gonna catch these hands.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Oh, but you had some.
I have some
surprise.
stats. So here's how this is gonna go.
Okay.
So what we're gonna do is we each built a list of 20. So we have 20. We have some in common, so there's some overlap.
I think we have about allegedly half.
Yeah, we have allegedly half. And then, so we'll just trade off. We did it in order, so it'll be also interesting to see where it is in order, where it isn't common, right? Mm-hmm. We're not really reviewing movies. Most of these are going to be known. I have a couple that probably are not that known, but generally,
yeah, don't worry. We're not going to review 40 films.
Right.
Bore the shit out of you.
But what I do have is I have some. So we also pitched out to the horror community on Facebook and Instagram, etc. And got some answers. Yes, got some answers from them. So we're gonna include a couple of.
They had two big whammies. There.
Well, go ahead, just say them because I don't think they're on our lists.
First one was Final Destination 5.
Yes.
Which, if you haven't, listened to it, we did a whole episode about how it's the best fifth installment of any franchise.
Yes.
And then the other one was Kong Skull Island.
Yeah, and Kong Skull Island is interesting because I don't like the it's not horror argument or discussion, but I got to admit, when you're trying to fit 50 great movies into a box of 20, you start to just be like, it's not horror enough out. Whatever. So, it just becomes like a way to
if we were doing movies,
decision.
If we were doing like movies of the year
yes.
of the decade,
yes.
there's quite a few that I think I would kick off my list right
yes.
now, and I know Skull Island would definitely
right. But Skull Island is definitely the best modern American Godzilla universe film. Because that's that universe.
Yeah, King
right?
Kong's the best part about Godzilla.
But it's the universe, right? Because they're meeting. So, correct?
Yeah. They're all connected. And right now, like, after King of Monsters came out, like, Kong Skull Island's still, like, the most enjoyable. And it's bright. You can actually see who's fighting. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. And the cast is ridiculous.
The cast was super good.
So
it was like everyone from Marvel.
True. Good point. Well, that's in the year 2025. That'll just be everyone. So
that's
except
all
for Scorsese. Everyone will be in that. Everyone will be in that batch.
No, he'll be doing his own pictures.
All right, let's do some stats. We didn't. I prepared this, but you don't know what we're doing.
I don't know what's
happening. I'm going to
happening.
throw this at you. I just want to.
I like this.
I want to see what you come up with, right? So, and I've made some changes to my list, but here's the thing. So, both our lists combined, and including the Hello Weekly Horror Group, what year do you think is most represented on the list?
2000.
The most movies came from which year?
2017. No. What year was Get Out? That was 16? 17?
That was 17.
Okay, 2017.
2017. All right. So 2017 has 4 movies on the list.
Like home runs, like the
second place. There's 5 in 2014 and 15 each. So the middle of the decade is super represented, right? There's 1 year that has no films.
Which one?
Do you guess? What do you think?
Oh my God.
What year you think has no films?
2000. Gatsby's agreeing. Yeah, 2014. That's my gut. 2014.
2019. We don't have a single film from this year.
Well, here's the thing, dude. Like, this is
caveat, big asterisk. I know almost for certainty that I will be adding Parasite to my list after I see it because I feel good enough about that director and everything I've learned about the movie. I have not seen it yet, but I have a feeling that would bump something off my list of 20. But nothing else for this year is on this list. So I don't know if that's recency bias like flipped or if that's just the year or what it is.
Well, also it's like we've had like even with like 2018, like we've had like a year for the movies to like marinate for a little bit.
There's only 2 from 2018. There's 1 from 2010. I'm telling you, the middle of the decade. When I mapped it out, I'm like, wow, the middle of the decade was really crazy.
2019 had some really good ones. Like I really like the Child's Play remake. I really like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Like
Right.
those two, those were the two.
Yeah, there were really enjoyable movies this year. There were enjoyable movies every year, but when crunch time comes and you got to get it onto a list,
I just think it's I
interesting.
agree and disagree. Like I still think it's almost unfair for them because they haven't had a lot of time to marinate. You know what I'm saying?
I totally agree. I mean, it's suspicious that it's the most recent year.
Exactly. That's what.
I have a theory though.
Okay,
I was puzzling this over. So I feel like now there's two reasons primarily that I can come up with why the whole 80s, early 90s, kind of horror fan base, and they always complain that no horror movies really live up to that. Even some people like stand for the 70s, obviously there's just great horror movies in all those blocks, right? But they're always like, it's not the same, the quality's not, it's not whatever. But here's the thing. So first of all, you're not 14 anymore, so that's part of it. Because you were probably around that age when you first started watching horror movies, like whether it was 80s or 90s or whatever it was, right? So it's different, sadly, when you're an adult. But
Yeah.
also, I think that movies split. I think it's Jekyll and Hyde now. The more I thought about it, the more I thought horror movies aren't fun and serious simultaneously, like fun and brutal as nearly with the frequency they were in the 80s or 90s. I think this era, quality wise, is the same. Like there are so many. I had so much trouble making my list. But when I went and looked back at like Elm Street 3, right, which is scary and hilarious and bleak and light. Like it's all combined, right? And then I was looking at this whole A24 block of like, It Comes at Night, Mother, those kind of movies. They're not fun, but they're super well done.
Yeah.
And then the movies that are fun, like Child's Play or whatever, aren't scary. So I feel like what happened was it split, right? It diverged. Now there's exceptions to the rule, but I feel like there were fun and seriously scary movies like Evil Dead 2 style coming out with all the ingredients combined with way more frequency then. So it's not better or worse, it's just different, right?
Yeah.
So that's the theory that I'm working off with in my head. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, it's like culinary stuff. You look at like some of the cookbooks from the 70s, it's like or like the 50s, everything's in like a jello. Shit like that.
Get out your microwave.
Yeah, that shit changes.
It totally does change. But there are some deadly serious movies on my list, and I couldn't even avoid it just because they're so well done, right? All right, next stat. You ready? There are. What is the highest Rotten Tomatoes rating of any movie on our list?
It's gonna be something stupid because
not
it's
the movie.
Like,
just pick the percentage. What's the highest percentage? Did we get 100 in there? Did we get a 99? A 98?
I think we got.
What do you think we got in there?
I'm looking at my list.
Don't say any names.
I know.
Just give me stats.
Do I have to name the one that?
No, just tell me a percentage. What's the ceiling?
The highest
What's
percentage?
highest percentage of any
I
movie?
guarantee one of them's 100%.
Okay, I guarantee you that's not true.
I guarantee one of them's 99%.
I guarantee you that's not true.
I guarantee it's 98%.
Yes, there are two movies at 98%. There are quite a few movies.
Are they ones
in
that we
90s.
both picked? Are they
Yes.
the ones in common?
Yes.
Okay, killer.
So, okay, what's the lowest percent? Because remember, we're picking the best movies ever.
Oh, and we put some of our own opinions in there.
We did.
So
that's why I said favorite.
I'm guessing the lowest we probably got on there. It's probably like 56%.
45.
45.
We've got one 45er in there.
Is it going to shock me?
Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not.
Is it my pick?
It is. It is your pick.
Oh, I think I know what it is.
Yeah, I know. I know you know what it is.
Ah, shit.
All right. How many remakes are on our combined list?
Oh, okay. Dude, there's really... I'm looking... Oh, my God. 1?
2 combined.
Wow.
So out of basically 30 and change movies, because we had a little overlap, we only got 2 remakes on the list. How many sequels?
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm looking at mine, and I got 1. And I'm guessing to save... I'm guessing you got 1 too, so I'm guessing 2.
It's 2 again.
Wow.
Right?
Man, for people shitting about remakes and like crying about all that, like
There's a lot of original stuff happening.
Quite
At
a
least
bit.
Enough to put on our list. All right, so there were no double directors. We didn't get anyone in there twice. But if you count honorable mentions, can you think of a couple of directors off the top of your head that might have been doubled up? Because it came close. I have a movie that I actually had on my list that I took off, but if I had left it, it would have made it two directors.
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Okay.
It might have changed if I had seen The Nightingale by now, but
yeah, for sure, or The Lighthouse, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, so the closest we came to double director, at least from my knowledge,
or Doctor Sleep. There's a lot that came out like recently. Jesus.
My honorable mention, the closest we came was Mike Flanagan.
That would be my guess,
right?
And mine would also he's
because I had Oculus on my list originally, my rough list, and then it came off like halfway through my compiling. But I love Oculus, so it was
he makes the most sense. I feel like
he's never done a movie that isn't fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, and that's rare for a horror.
He's done quite a bit too,
right?
Which is great. Plus, with Doctor Sleep coming out this tomorrow.
Yeah, I know we're doing
so
this right
excited.
before.
Yeah, I know.
Before that.
We'll have to do a bonus episode.
And let me take a look. We also almost doubled up with. Nope, never mind. That wasn't it. Oh, we could have hypothetically doubled up with Fede Alvarez.
Oh yeah.
All right, so that was the stats that I came
almost
up
with him.
Almost with him. So, but we have no doubles, which I think I'm pretty excited about. That means that there's just a lot of
this year's got a lot of flavor,
different kind of talents, doing different kind of things and working and making it happen. All right, so without further ado. What is number 20 on your list?
Dude, I'm starting off with Spectre Vision, my dude. First of all, they're people talk about a lot of A24, but Spectre Vision's done. I think they did A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Mm-hmm. Pretty sure they did Mandy. Isn't that right?
They did. They've done a lot of good work.
But I'm putting it on there because I loved Cooties.
45%.
That's the one. God damn it. That movie was so good. I don't understand. And here's the thing. I put Cooties over Little Monsters.
Right.
To be honest. And even though Little Monsters, I laughed constantly, there was something that was super really like Little Monsters made me laugh more, but Cooties, I think the idea of it happening in a school, it's basically where the children in an elementary school become zombies.
Right. It's more horror
because of mutated chicken nuggets.
Right.
And the opening is disgusting. But it was
as are chicken nuggets.
And it might be because I also finally got on the A train and watched The Office.
Right. And
I love Rainn Wilson. Mm-hmm. He is hilarious.
I feel like he's got one super dangerous role in him. Like the kind of thing that Robin Williams used to do, where all of a sudden he'd pop up and he'd be in insomnia or 1 hour photo, and you'd be like, what's happening?
You're like, what? Please stop! You're scaring me. No, I think he has it. Plus, it's got Elijah Woods, it's got Rainn Wilson, and they are hilarious. And I think because it was funny, we were actually talking about Land of the Dead and how it came out in a saturated time with zombie stuff, and this sort of came out around Walking Dead fatigue, and I think because I was officially off the Walking Dead train, and then I saw this, and I was like, oh, zombies can still be fun.
See, that's personal, and that makes total sense.
Yeah, and Rainn Wilson's hilarious.
Anything that can take a little of the gray out of Walking Dead.
Well, it took a little bit of that gray and put it in a chicken nugget and mutated all the kids.
You don't have to add gray to chicken nuggets. That's their natural state.
That's their natural state.
All right, so my number 20 film is Revenge, which came back in. I had taken it out.
Dude, that was in and out and in and out.
And here's the thing. If I'm being honest, I wasn't convinced I wanted it in there because it actually is pretty similar to a movie that I'm going to talk about later that's way up further on my list. Mm-hmm. But, and only tonally similar. The plots are totally different. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I appreciated the way the visuals from that movie stuck with me more than almost anything horror has done in the last couple of years. And the reason that's sort of special to me is that I feel like a lot of movies are trying to do that now. I don't feel like there was an era where they weren't really trying that. I feel like a lot of the late 90s horror movies didn't care if they were ugly or flat or, bad CGI or whatever. But when you look at movies, the way they're staging them and doing it, even Halloween 2018, right? I feel like a lot of that movie was shot so that it could be turned into posters or like just artistic, like the kill scene in Halloween 2018 where he's in the closet and he's attacking the babysitter. That room looks like a plausible room someone could live in, but it also is just gorgeous. It's got like the light mobile spinning and like the colors and all that is great, but it's ultimately it's kind of they're great, but they didn't stick with me the way the visuals in Revenge stuck with me. When the girl in Revenge falls and she's like on that tree, impaled, right, and stuck, like whatever. Just the detail of the first shot, you don't even know what you're looking at, and you realize you're looking upside down from her POV at like grains of sand and ants and blood dripping down.
I forgot about how great that was.
That shot,
like
the shot when
thunder.
she heals her, the whole thunder all around that. The shot when she heals her tattoo and she gets that sigil from the
beer can,
like all the visual, and then the house. And all the shots of like that brutal, like gory massacre in the thing. I don't know. I couldn't leave it off because the visuals are just so striking and they stayed with me so vividly, right? So that's all right. What's your number 19?
Yeah, I'm sad. I didn't put Revenge on mine.
No, it's fine. We got a combined list.
We do have a combined list, and I will say this to add to it. It was the first, probably one of the only films aside from one of the other ones, which I think will be obvious, that made me wince.
Totally.
So
because it's gory. I mean, it doesn't pull punches.
Good gore.
It's like Mandy in the sense that it's a little bit high concept and like whatever, but when it gets to it, it gets to it.
Okay, number 19. I know that we both got this one. Okay.
Yes.
This one's a fun one. Sinister.
Yes. Oh, I changed mine.
You motherfucker. Okay, well, I still got Sinister at
Yes.
number 19 on my
I
list.
knocked Sinister off mine.
Dude, it's one of those like original films that I feel like everyone's seen, but it still feels underrated.
Totally.
And I don't know why.
It is. Obviously it got swamped by the Wandaverse a little bit, right? So like it's just not the biggest name in that thing. If you imagine, I'm picturing Galaxy Quest in my head, but imagine like a convention but instead of meeting celebrities, the movies became people and they were bringing them out on stage. Mm-hmm. So you got Conjuring 2, all of them sitting back on stage, right? You got The Nun, I don't know, like bringing
Annabelle
people coffee.
There, yeah.
Because no one's going to let The Nun actually go on stage, obviously. But then you're like, all right, so you're going to introduce them. Now what are you going to save for last? It's not Sinister. You're not going to be like, and finally, the one you've all been waiting for. That's just not how that goes, right? So I think it got kind of lost in a thing. But I just want to throw this in there. I know I've told this story on a previous podcast, but I'm not even going to go through the whole story. But it's just, I wanted to fight for Sinister so hard, but I think that one moment that's personal to me was swaying me because the movies I have on my list I like a little bit better. But there's that one moment where the little girl leans into Ethan Hawke while he's tied up on the ground and she's slaughtering his family, his daughter, and she leans down and she whispers to him, and she's like, and you don't even hear it. Like I swear to God, the first time I watched this movie, I didn't hear it, and then the look on his face, great acting, and it was just terrifying. And then after the movie was over, I went and Googled what she said, and as soon as it popped up in a search result and it said, "Here's what she said," she goes, "Don't worry, Daddy, I'll make you famous."
Yeah.
I got like this chill. The movie scared me more after I saw it than while I was watching it, which has never happened to me before or since with a movie. Because of the unique scare, I really like it.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
Out of all of our picks,
Yes.
is Ethan Hawke probably one of the best actors in any of these films?
Yes. We've got some really good actors in our film.
But he's high up there.
Look at eyeball and our number, I think our collective number 2. The cast on that is just insane.
But I'll say pound for pound when he comes in the ring.
But yeah, for sure, absolutely. I mean, he was amazing in First Reformed, and he's been amazing for a long time. And even in horror, he was great in Daybreakers and
Yeah.
So.
But the last thing I want to say about it was
Yes.
It felt original. It felt great. It stayed with me.
It's truly scary.
It's truly scary, and it was also one of the films my dad messaged me about. He goes, "Have you seen Sinister? That was messed up," and like that never really happened. So I'm like, "Wow, it had."
I'm glad it's on your list. If you had taken it off, I would have audible and put it back on mine. Someone had to have it, but it's an amazing. I think it's just a really really well done film. And here's the thing. I know this is going to sound weird, But I have an honorable mention. We're going to get to our honorable mentions. I'll just reveal one of my mind now, which is Last Shift, which we talk about all the time because I think it's one of the truly scary movies like Autopsy of Jane Doe that like really, people say movies are scary, but these are really frightening movies. And I was like, how could I put Sinister on and not Last Shift? And they cancel each other out.
Yeah.
So neither of them got on because they're literally equal to me. Right?
That makes sense. I can see that. All right. So that was my.
So my number 19, and I know this is elsewhere on your list, but my number 19 film is Let Me In, the Matt Reeves remake.
I can't believe you put it down
of Let the Right One In. So I did put it low, and it's only because it is a remake, and it's an inferior remake, right? So like, I know being as good as the original would be really hard to do, and I'm not taking anything away from it. It's on my list, right? Like it beat out a lot of amazing movies.
True.
I love this film, but it's because it's a remake. I just felt like I wanted to reward the originality of what's higher up on the list a little bit more. It's also really frightening, right? And very, very well acted, which is a miracle given the age of the people that are involved, and very well directed. And also just incredible visuals. I mean, it's just so hard to do a remake well, let alone a remake of a true classic, right? So
no, that makes sense. That's crazy. That was your 19.
What's your 19?
All right. Well, mine was Sinister, so now we're on 18.
Oh, okay. What's your 18?
18. It had to be somewhere on the list.
Yes.
Evil Dead remake.
Also my 18. Let's just get out of the way.
Oh, thank God, dude. I loved this movie so much, dude. And I saw it. Hey, here's the thing. We each have a bunch of personal reasons for like why we put everything on our list. And for me, like the movie has to be good, duh.
Yes.
But I think like the way I see it, who I saw it with.
Cooties.
Cooties was great.
I'm just kidding.
I saw Cooties at the premiere. That shit was great.
Kidding.
That shit was great. I saw Elijah Wood. What was weird though was seeing him there and then seeing him again at the Once Upon a Time.
Seeing him.
It's really weird. But I saw Evil Dead. I think me and Alex, we were visiting family or we hadn't moved out to LA yet, but we saw it at my old stomping ground, Shaker's 10. Mm-hmm. Which at the time they had like $5 Tuesdays, and they finally just renovated it this year. So like apparently it's really nice now. But it used to be kind of grimy and gross, but it was fun. And when we went, me and Alex were like the only two in the theater.
It's awesome. And
it was like it just felt like that old school horror movie going experience.
Yep.
And it was, I mean, it also sparked my love for Fede Alvarez.
Totally.
I will watch anything that guy does.
Yes.
But the gore's great. The retelling of the story, doing the drug addict in the cabin thing was well done. Mm-hmm. I really pray there was news about a new Evil Dead that I want to see them continue that story.
Totally. I do too.
It's
a great movie. I saw it in the theater, and it was also fun because the audience, I could tell the audience just thought they were going to see like Jigsaw, basically. And they just weren't ready for the no holds barred nature of it. And they weren't ready for how it starts. Because I think the way it starts is pretty magical, right? Mm-hmm. Like that fake out with the wood chase and the girl. And then like, it's just, all of that is amazing. But it's so hard to make iconic visuals in a movie as a remake of a movie that had iconic visuals,
right?
But like the girl like razoring her cheek open,
the tongue and the blood rain,
right? And the girl trapped under the trap door with her scary eyes,
doing the little tappy thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just
funny enough,
really did good job.
That film had website banners that again scare the shit out of my dad. He would get up for work, have a cup of coffee.
We gotta get your dad to do it.
Yeah. And the ad was, she would pop up and be like, "Hey, over here." And I guess it would just freak him out every fucking time. So those are two in the row for Dad.
I think that's awesome. I think that's phenomenal. All right. So that was we had the same 18. What's your 17?
Okay. This one, I fucking love this movie. I saw this one and Whiplash in the same night, back to back.
Oh, marathon.
And so we watched, actually, no, we saw The Babadook, which is my pick.
Yes.
Because I remember someone on Reddit was like, "You guys have to see this movie," and it just was on demand. So we watched it, and then we went and saw Whiplash at the Lemley in Pasadena. So it was like the best night for movies ever. Mm-hmm. But The Babadook, I mean, first of all, I love the kid in that film. People always
I know.
complain about how he's so annoying, and I'm like, yeah,
That's the
that's
point.
his fucking job, you idiot. Like, imagining doing good at your job, and your boss comes up and just beats the shit out of you. He's like, you're too fucking good.
That's the point.
But I also loved. But to be fair, the divide it brought to the horror community was actually kind of great because it was around the time we started Hollow Weekly.
Yep.
And it was kind of fun because like we always wanted to start it and like have like a no bullshit place to talk about horror that's not super negative, which a lot of other people are starting to get on board with now.
Yes.
So I was going to say we were the OGs of that, and defending the film, but the talk that came with it was so interesting because there was like the hardcore 80s fans who like fucking hated it and were never gonna like it. Then there was those people now who are like, I kind of like this new horror stuff we're doing
Totally.
here. And Jennifer Kent, fucking amazing, dude. I love the way this film's shot. It's almost sort of like, it's like Tim Burton-y.
Yep.
It's like, and like that atmosphere just always works.
Tim Burton minus Danny Elfman.
Minus Danny DeVito.
Yeah, right. It's also my 17, by the way.
It's also we both got 17,
Yeah.
and the acting in it is just it's so good. And also, a lot of people talked. What someone was like, or one of the big complaints was like it was so on the nose. Like, you know, like, oh, we get it. It's about depression. I'm like, all horror films are about some kind of depression, dude.
Right, or anxiety, or right, exactly.
Yeah.
But it was. I think one of the things I want to give credit whenever someone's on the front end of something, like whoever invested in Apple, like the fourth investor, like they made out fine. But Babadook was the leading edge of the return of horror movies being about trauma, right? And now we're really in that where even if you turn on like a pulp action film like Overlord, everyone's got like a traumatic backstory. I mean, now trauma is the currency of the horror realm now, right? So like literally Ari Aster is making a career out of it. So
Right.
But Babadook was sort of first for that like
it was also
the return of it.
IFC, the Independent Film Channel,
Yes.
production, which I think they also did like Midnight Meat Train. They come out with some really cool shit every now and then.
They do really good work. All right, so go to your 16 since we both had that.
Well, one last thing about Babadook.
Oh yes, yeah,
I think it's probably my only super optimistic ending film. Like, dude, I got like when she
Interesting.
screams at the Babadook to leave her alone, and then she's like empowered, but then it's still like in the basement. Like it's always like sort of gonna shadow her a little
totally.
bit. I fucking like it's probably the most emotional ending, other than our number two.
I would argue that the ending of our number one pick is pretty empowering, but we'll get.
That's
to,
true.
We'll get to
Okay,
that.
so
but
number
yeah, I agree with you.
Number 16.
Yes, what's your 16?
I know we differ on this one.
Okay.
I got Scream 4.
I love that you put it there. I love
It had
that you
to be
put it
like I had like. There's no way like because this is the last decade we're gonna be able to put Craven on anything.
there. Yes.
Which is heartbreaking.
I mean, maybe it's possible that I saw a news article today that said they were
The James Dean
James
thing.
Dean, but yeah, I mean, who knows, man?
That'd be weird. If they could do it with directors. Like they could grab like their essence, and their voice. That'd be. I'm sure AI can do it at some point. I'm slowed
figure it
up.
out. But yeah, no, you're right. It's sad, and But what's a gift to us is that a lot of his late movies were as good as anything he'd ever done.
I really think he stuck the landing. Like Scream 4. First of all, like we mentioned Final Destination 5 being the best fifth. Like when you get past 3, it's a hard uphill battle to be a good film, still be relevant.
Totally.
You know, other than it finds its cult following.
Yeah, like name a horror franchise that has 3 great movies in it. I mean, it's hard to do even with franchises that have 20 films. Sometimes you don't get 3 great. They can be fun or amazing.
To me, there's
hilarious or like scary, but
2 great Jason films.
right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like you get but the fact that Scream 1, 2, and 4 are so great, like it's just the odds.
I
against
mean,
that are incredible. Not to mention. Like you were saying with Friday or Elm Street or like whatever, like those are different directors. This is all Craven.
Exactly, and the fact that he was able to just bookend it. I mean, which is crazy saying this now. Did you see the news a little bit ago that they're trying to bring him back?
Yeah.
Which I'm all for. There's billions of people on the planet. Multiple people can work on fucking a Scream franchise. We're fine.
Agreed.
But it holds up. it's finally getting its cult following today. That catchy song in the beginning, me and Alex, for some reason, we were on a kick where we would listen to that going to Disneyland every time, and we just start belting it out. But for it to be a fourth film in a franchise and be that goddamn good,
agreed,
is a crazy feat, and it's like a Wes Craven send-off.
Yeah, you got Craven on a list.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be against that. Ex Machina is my number 16.
I was battling with that one. You were confident in, though.
I was, yeah. I knew this. I knew it was going to make it. I know that it's a lot sci-fi and all that stuff, like whatever. But I mean, okay, take away Alien too. But here's the thing. The thing is, there's something about that trapped feeling that we keep coming back to, like Buried with Ryan Reynolds, or like The Vanishing, which I'll never rewatch. Not the terrible American one, but the actual original one. And when they did a fresh version of Buried Alive, that's hard to do. But what happens to the young guy who fails at the end of it is he's basically buried alive, right? Just the Silicon Valley version of it. And it's chilling, and the scary moments were done so well. We talked about this before when we did the episode in the review long ago, but just that gross sound when she stabs him, and it's just like a spoiled carton of milk, and the knife just goes bloop and bloop, and it's like, oh my god, it's terrible. And it's also, I think, one of the scariest things that can happen in horror, especially sci-fi horror, is sort of that dispassionate, like the robot putting you to sleep in Alien Covenant, and not caring, or Hal just like, I'm afraid I can't do that, Dave. Like, just that matter-of-fact evil is really good when you get it right, and this movie got it right.
I fucking love that movie. All right,
what do you got?
Number 15, I got What We Do in the Shadows.
Same as mine.
I mean, I think that's my last horror comedy.
Only 2 horror comedies on here, yep.
Yeah, and I mean, Jesus Christ, like, and what's crazy is I can't believe I put Cooties over Tucker and Dale, but to me, Tucker and Dale was wrestling with What We Do in the Shadows,
right?
In terms of the King,
totally.
And I also sort of favored that one just because the TV show is also just as good. So I consider that just an extension of the universe. Yep. But it was just one of those like super. I don't want to keep saying refreshing for every film. It was so funny that it was actually probably the one I rewatched the most.
Yes.
It was the film
it's one of our 98 percenters too.
Yeah, it's the film that I watched, and then I immediately ran home and told all my friends, "Oh my god, we got to watch this movie." Yep. And then, in fact, when I went home in the springtime, I watched it with my brother. Yep. I watched it with my sister, and then when I went back there for October, we started watching the TV series. Yeah. Like, this show just had a huge impact.
Well, and there's a magic thing that happens with just a very few things. For me, it happened with Black Mirror, and it just happens once in a while, but you watch something and you're like, how did this not exist before this?
Right.
Like, how did someone not make this before now? Right. Mm-hmm. Like, What We Do in Shadows was so obvious an idea, but it was so brilliantly executed, and no one had done it that way.
Yeah.
Like that like mockumentary style really lends itself to that, but they made it super unique because they buried it in real horror tradition.
Yeah. And I think in the hands of any other director, it wouldn't have been nearly as good.
Agreed.
So it was like lightning in a bottle, but then they did it twice with the TV show. That's how good it is.
Lightning in a bottle twice. What's 14?
Ooh, I had to put this one on my list.
Okay.
I got Unfriended.
That's right. Film. This is where we diverge. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this was probably the biggest shocker for me.
To see it on your list, right.
Well, and to enjoy the movie.
Oh, right. Okay.
Like, I remember
you were expecting another Gallows.
It was one of those, I think they marketed it as much as they did like the Gallows, where it was one of those films where it was like, no matter what movie you went and saw, that trailer was going to play.
Right.
And it was just sort of like, oh my God, come on. Like, it's a Skype film. It's going to be generic. There's not going to have anything in there.
It's going to be friend request.
Right.
Because that movie's terrible.
And then you go see it, and they're just like wrong, like Lex Luthor style. They're like this movie is gonna be so fun, so creative, and
again, actually scary.
And it's actually scary. Like when it cuts to that kid with his hand in the blender, and he's like freaking out. Like the gore was great, and I mean just the idea that they're like, hey, we're gonna do a horror movie that takes place all on Skype. is I love it. I'm always gonna fight.
You
for
know
stuff
what's
like
weird?
that.
This is no one. I'm the only person in the universe this will make sense to, so I don't even know why I'm saying it, but it gave me the vibe of like the some of the mayhem that happened in The Happening, but not ridiculous.
Yeah.
Not in a ridiculous context, because some of the things that happen in The Happening are scary. It's just a fucking terrible movie. But
It's weird.
But when you like the one with the hand, the kid with his hand stuck, that seemed like something that would happen in The Happening. But instead, it's in an actually terrifying movie, and you can see how scary that would be if the movie around it wasn't dumb.
Yeah, no, this was my biggest surprise and biggest enjoyment because the whole theater was just having a riot with this
Yes.
movie. Because everyone's like, they pulled it off.
They pulled
That's
it off.
crazy.
I put Final Destination 5.
I'm so glad he made
four-
some.
at 14. I felt like this is a good place for it belongs. And first of all, Stick the Landing.
Yeah.
Just the best franchise come full circle moment in modern horror franchise history, as far as I'm concerned. Stayed scary, stayed true to what it believed in, like stayed clever, didn't pull punches. And then, like a lot of people, I judge Final Destination a lot by the opening kill sequence, right? So if you just rank to those, the log truck is number one, obviously. Right?
Yeah.
Right. But I feel like the bridge holds its own. Like it's better than the coaster. It's better than 4. Like it's sort of the same as 1. So like you got the sort of same thing at the end, but the bridge scene is really, really well done. Even like morbidly funny at parts, right? And
It's like kind of slaps like
I didn't even mind the 3D, right? Which I usually hate. So it
yeah,
was
because you see those shots that are clearly meant to be glasses, like the boat,
like the spire of the boat. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think pound for pound, Final Destination is the most consistent quality modern horror franchise.
Wow, and the way they stuck the landing. Well, the one woman didn't stick a landing, but the film's ending tied back into
That
what
was
it
so
does.
uncomfortable,
Was like it's just a really great twist that you didn't see coming, and it's so obvious when it happens.
Agreed.
You're like, how did I see it coming?
Who's unlucky enough to be at 13?
Dude, this one's weird for me. It Follows.
I was wondering if you were going to leave it on your list.
Dude, I gotta have to because like this. What's funny is this movie sort of acts like the villain. Like I'm like I don't think about it, and then like all of a sudden, Disaster Pieces plays on Spotify, and I'm like, oh wait, It Follows. Like I hated it when I saw it, but like it just keeps growing on me.
Like trying to change your mind,
dude. It's weird. Like what was I doing? So like same with Midsummer. Did we talk about this? How like I ended up rewatching the ending Midsummer, and I was like, I kind of like it. No, it's same thing.
I'm not there with you on that yet,
but with It Follows, it was multiple scenes.
Yeah,
and I was like, well, shit. Technically, if I like a lot of the scenes in the movie,
right. If every time I randomly catch a scene, I like it.
Yeah, if I like,
apparently I like most of the movie.
If I like 9 out of 10 scenes from a film, I think I like the film.
So we talked about this a little bit before, but this is one of those movies where, first of all, I loved it when I saw it. I get the objections to it, I really do, but I think that it's just it's inevitable. It was an inevitable film. Someone had to make this film with this idea, right? Someone had to strip everything down to like the horror pursuit of a victim essence.
Yeah.
And do it, right? So like it had to be there, but I think it's the funny thing about this movie to me is I get that everyone feels like it's a little flat and lifeless because they just don't like the characters in it. The characters are not.
That seems like a style choice.
Yeah, exactly. But ultimately, I think there's the very fact that you can't pin down what the best thing about It Follows is easily is the best thing about It Follows, right?
Yeah.
And there's an amazing book from the Devil's Advocate series on the background of It Follows, on the making of It Follows, and a lot of movies can't sustain like just reading about background of them, but this book really changed my mind. Like I liked the movie 3 times as much as I did after reading the book, which is hard to do. Like that, usually reading a book is just complimenting. There's a great book about, I forget what the exact name is, but it's like Hellraiser and its legacy, and it's just about the Hellraiser franchise, which I came too late. Like I had to be convinced to like some of it because there was something I didn't like about the whole Cenobite vibe. But the book, you know, I came around and I liked Hellraiser, and then I read the book, and I would say that the book just basically like reaffirmed what I thought, which was it's a really daring franchise, right, for what it is, until it turns to shit. But this book like was like I was watching a different movie than I thought it was. Like there's more in this movie than you think there is. So check out the book. Highly recommend. All right, number 12.
We had the same 13?
We did.
Oh, rock and roll. Okay, we might have the same 12 to be honest.
I think we do.
Green Room?
Yes.
Dude, I was a late bloomer to Green Room by like a mile, dude. Like years.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and then it was one of those films where I was like, I'm just going to put it on Netflix. And then I was like, oh, so you're an idiot for waiting that long. Like, that was really good. I would say it's along those same lines of Revenge when it came to the gore.
Yes.
Like that hand getting cut in the door scene.
Yeah,
Woo, buddy.
Yep, totally.
I honestly I wish I would have saw it in the theater. That's my biggest regret of the decade.
It's just iconic shots, the dog, the villain turn from Patrick Stewart, like all of that stuff is amazing, right? And just the atmosphere of it. But I think ultimately one of the things that makes it special to me is that it feels like messy Hitchcock. Everyone who tries to do Hitchcock they always adopt the slick Hitchcock side. They always do like the Nolan version of Hitchcock. It's always like The Following, or they like to do like the audience knows something that the people in the movie don't, and then like there's the really clever shots and like whatever, just the sort of the way Hitchcock does. Picture in your mind like the stabbing scene on the stairs in Psycho, or or Janet Leigh driving in Psycho in the rain or whatever, and everyone tries to shoot things like that. Green Room felt organic. It felt messy, but it had all of the beats and architecture of a Hitchcock film. So it felt like punk Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Which shouldn't even exist.
SLC Hitchcock.
That shouldn't be a thing, but he did it. So I think that's amazing just for what it is. I think we're going to diverge here, but let you go first. What's your 11?
11? Dude, I can't believe I picked this one.
Cooties 2.
Cooties 2. The Electric Boogaloo did. No, I actually went with Crimson Peak.
Yes, I'm so glad you're going to fight for this.
Yeah, I was trying to put Shape of Water somewhere, but that would just go on my favorite films of like the entire decade.
Yeah, that goes with
but Crimson Peak was another one of those films where like when I left, I was like, I didn't really like it.
Right.
I enjoyed it because it was like super gothic. Like it's a gothic horror. We get this cool mansion with some cool monsters. Like that is like A++. Nick's gonna love it kind of stuff.
Totally.
Because I'm also a big fan of the Haunted Mansion. Like we haven't had like any really scary mansions this decade.
For sure.
So Crimson Peak is probably the closest thing we're gonna get.
Agreed.
But then I saw Guillermo del Toro because the marketing was it was horror, and then he went on Twitter and he was like, it's a gothic romance.
Yep.
And I was like, oh shit. That made me like it 1,000 times more.
Right.
And honestly, there's nothing. I mean, I'm looking at my list here. There's a lot of like cool use of cool colors in that film, and I don't think anything else really has that on my list.
No, probably not, because I don't think either of us put the Suspiria remake on.
No, this is probably my most colorful film.
Which is a bit of a shame because that's a really good remake too. But I agree, and that's the thing is, I think if I was trying to put that movie on there, it would have fallen off from the not horror thing, probably. I probably would have just taken the lazy way out to get it out, so I would have one less choice. Yeah. Because otherwise, it should go on there because it's just an amazing film. I feel the same way about Colossal. I wanted Colossal to be on my list, but it's just at the end of the story, it's not horror. It's an amazing film, but
actually, my list does have like one Haunted Mansion. In it.
All right,
but it's not as.
Oh, it does.
But it's not as. But it's not as.
No, I know what you're talking.
It's not as
not colorful at all.
But to be honest, I like the mansion in Crimson Peak more.
Yes, I agree.
Than I do the other.
I do too.
The other one.
I agree.
Okay.
All right. So my 11 is Caliber.
Is that the one you showed
me? Spelled BRE at the end instead of BER. So it's a really. I mean, I didn't hear a lot of people talk about it.
I've
or
never
rave
even
up.
heard of it.
It's got really good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes. It turns out, but it's a very quiet film. I've never met anyone no one came to me and said you got to watch this, so it just didn't seem to have a lot of buzz, at least in my circle. But it's just a really brutal, quiet thriller, but the opposite of boring because it is tension straight through. But the thing I really like about it is so what do we like about horror? What are the things you appreciate about the horror genre, right? So there's a lot of things, the general things that scares you, it gets the adrenaline going, like whatever. And then there's the more interesting things like the theories that, horror kind of lets you work out anxieties or, gets you sort of strengthens the anxiety muscle when you're in an actual anxious situation. You're a little like, there's all these horror things prepared about it. But one of the things I like about horror is that there's just this endless cavalcade of things falling apart.
Yeah.
Right. And I for some reason, I like that process. I'm drawn to that process. Right. So like disaster movies have it, but they all kind of have it the same way. Horror things fall apart all in a different way. Right. Like the town starts to fall apart. Like, people don't. But Jeff Goldblum starts to fall apart. People don't believe you. Like if you think about whether it's Frankenstein, all the way up to like Stranger Things, right? Like it's the sort of the same dynamic. Like there's secrets in the town. People aren't what they seem. Like whatever. And then you're trying to hold it together, and then it falls apart, right? Well, Caliber, there's this pair, the friends in this movie, they make one very very simple mistake. And they spend the rest of the movie trying to escape the consequences of that mistake. And it keeps piling up. And there's an old comedy called Quick Change that had a brilliant premise. It was Bill Murray, I think Randy Quaid. But the premise was they come up with this genius way to rob a bank, which truly was genius. And then when they get away totally out of the bank, just done, like no problems. And then all they got to do is get out of New York City. They just got to get to the airport. And New York thwarts them. New York City thwarts them, right? It's not the cops. It's not the bank. It's just they just can't get out of New York, right? Which is kind of great. So these guys make one mistake, and they're just trying to get away from their mistake. They're just trying to get out of town, away, and they just can't. And it just make it worse. And everywhere they turn, it makes it worse. And it gets really grim. And then they face like this horrible Sophie's Choice moment at the end, but it's just brutal. And I just like the idea of how life seems like it's going fine, and then it's like it'd be like walking in the woods and you're on a path and you step on a twig, and when the twig snaps, a little bit of dirt goes, and then the whole thing collapses, and you're like sliding down a cliff, just like that, right? That's what this movie feels like.
You showed me the shot, and I would say like that's probably one of the coolest things I've seen in the decade.
Yeah, it was executed. It happened so fast. If you blink, you miss.
That is what I love about it. It's so no bullshit.
Yeah, it's really straight up. So, all right, what you got at
number 10? Ooh, now we're getting into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
Okay, it had to be on here.
Top half of our list. Yes.
Conjuring.
Okay. So,
I mean, like,
no, I.
I'm
kidding.
Let me give you a handful. Never heard of it. Yeah, no, I mean, like it started like it's its own. It's its own thing now. It spawned some like you can't go the entire decade without something from the Wandaverse coming up here. Like The Conjuring, like which also, if we're talking about movie theater experiences, I can't see those movies in theaters. Some shit always happens. First time sister gets a car.
That's a bad luck franchise.
Migrate. Saw the second one, came back, saw a news dude die in the theater. I'm responsible for that death.
That's hard.
Also, I do think the first two are really well done. I've seen the second one more because I love Valak and I love all that one, which is a little disappointed with the nun. Yes. But I actually think I went back and watched the hide and clap scene from the first Conjuring, which was a big selling point of the marketing back then. And I remember it being like looking kind of lame, like it's kind of like because it's like just two claps, whatever. But then I went back and rewatched the scene. I was like, that's pretty frightening.
It's one of
It's some pretty frightening stuff. But I mean, in terms of the decade, like the Wandaverse, like has like a chunk like real estate invested in this decade.
I mean, yeah, it would be. It's Boardwalk and Park Place of
Right.
I mean, how do you get
Exactly.
Everyone wants to own that territory.
And if it wasn't for this, we wouldn't have enjoyed Annabelle Creations.
Right.
And, you know, I still love the atmosphere of The Nun. So
Yep.
all because of this movie,
Yeah,
which is
totally.
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you would never. I remember when it came out because it was yet another of the movies with this cursed thing I hate of just boring titles, where these boring 1 and 2 word titles.
They had The Box and
Oh
a couple of
god!
those
Right,
others.
and then I just thought The Conjuring, but now when you say The Conjuring, because the movie was so good and such an impact, you don't. It's not boring. The Conjuring is not boring anymore. Like it
Right.
took a boring phrase and made it not boring. I think that's interesting. At number 10 for me is Under the Skin. So. Under the Skin is an interesting movie because it's obviously it's very dark and it's like very quiet, and I probably have more slow burn on a horror than a lot of horror fans would agree with on my list. But the thing I really appreciate about this movie is I think that if you took our lists and put them in a time capsule and pulled them out 70 years from now, it wouldn't be that movie aged better than the other movies on here.
Mm-hmm.
It would be that I think the people who dug it up would understand what that movie was trying to do better than most of the movies on our list. Because I think where the world is headed is horror is more like the Upgrade model, where your body's taken over by nanobots, or you just get... Like, this movie... It has that Lovecraftian, like you just get absorbed by something bigger than you that doesn't care about you, just literally doesn't care, and has no feelings about it.
Yeah.
Right? You're just absorbed. It's like you're a stain on the floor, and it just like a sponge came by. Like I just had to clean
Soaked you up.
So just because no other movie really packed that kind of punch, I had to put it on. I just realized Black Swan's not on either of our lists, which is interesting.
We didn't put anything from
Yeah, Darren didn't make it,
Aronofsky.
but it's fine. It's I think
I would have put Mother over Black Swan.
I would have put Black Swan over Mother for sure. But I think you know. We are kind of making the same mistake that the Oscars do, where like that movie that came out like 11 months before the Oscars, that's clearly better than most of the things that are getting the prizes. Everyone's like, who cares? Like, whatever. So that's fine. That's fair. All right. What do you got at 9?
Oh, Get Out.
No, I'm part of this podcast.
No. Stay in, but my choice is Get Out.
You have it at 9?
I got it at 9.
Interesting.
Well, dude, I mean, like, I'm telling you, which is actually, people are probably going to get mad at me for what my number 8 is, but like, for real, they're probably not going to like it. But I mean, to be honest, everything from like 9 and down, I love the same. So this is like,
sure.
this,
Yeah, that makes sense.
this part, it's in no particular order other than just, you know, putting a number next to them. But like, I mean, Get Out started all of what Jordan Peele's about to do.
I should have mentioned him at the beginning as the potential for a double.
For double, that was my second guess.
He should have. He was obviously high odds for being. I agree. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Get Out is phenomenal. It's there's not a lot new to say about it at this point. It's
We've talked about it.
It's just one of the things that surprised me about it was how well it holds up on rewatches. Right. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know how that was going to go. I knew I was going to catch things I didn't catch on the first time, and Easter eggs and like stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you just expect that out of movies now. No one makes movies where that doesn't happen anymore. But it was more that there's some kind of magic that went into the making of that, where Jordan Peele knew. It's like that feeling you get when you buy the perfect gift for someone and you just can't wait to give it to them because you nailed it. You know that he knew while he was making it that he had the perfect movie in his head.
And I'll say this for me. I know some people, still didn't like it, but like I knew going into it, it was gonna be one of those movies that I was gonna love.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really happen. And again, I usually don't get hyped for films because like I don't want to be disappointed. So I'm like, we'll just go and see it. But this was the one where I was like, I'm gonna like it. It was over. I was like, I like it.
Yeah, and the cast is phenomenal. So, all right, what do you got at 9?
Oh, that wasn't That was
Wait,
my
I don't
number
know.
9.
Okay, so go ahead. Oh, I got to do my 9. All right. So my 9, you haven't seen. We talked about this. As a matter of fact, probably no one listening to this has seen it, but it's a movie called November. I think it was
You
2017.
did show me the trailer before we recorded.
Yeah,
It's hilarious.
And it's dark and scary and hilarious, but it's a very what you said makes the most sense. It looks like a modern Haxan,
Yeah.
right? Like and it's very folklory, very kind of similar-ish feeling to like a Hagasusa or Terrified or those kind of things, right? But also there was a critic, I don't remember his name, wish I gave him credit, but he called
He's
it
in the trailer,
sneakily fun. Because it's funny. It's way funnier than I expected to be. Going into like the serious font they chose for it in the all black poster. I was like, this, it looks like Metallica's, the Ride the Lightning album. I'm like,
It does, yeah.
I'm like, this is not going to be a funny movie, but it was funny. Much like most of Metallica's late albums, it's a hilarious movie. But it's also it's truly striking. There were shots in this movie that were so ravishing. I was like, I would put these up side by side with Night of the Hunter. And anytime you can say that, I feel like it's got to go on a list because Night of the Hunter is one of the best horror movies ever made. So it's the fact that he even could sustain comparison to that is amazing. So I highly recommend it for all the people on Earth who have not seen it.
I will say out of the different picks that you have, that's the one I want to see the most. I want to watch the ending to Caliber and watch all of November.
You might change your mind when I get to my 4, but it might stay this way. We'll see.
Your 4 is different than my 4?
Yes.
What? All right.
Go ahead.
I know my 8's different.
Yeah, what's your 8?
My 8 is Kevin Smith's Red State.
I thought you were going to say we need to talk about Kevin.
We need to talk about Kevin.
which would be valid. It should be on
put it up
there. All right.
No, I loved Red State, and I didn't put like the other. Like I didn't put Tusko on there, and didn't put Yoga Hosers because. But I really think Red State is one of the films. I think it's actually the biggest film on my list that doesn't let you catch your breath.
Yes.
I think once the boys meet up with the hooker, like from there on out, it is just you're gasping for breath. It was also the one film where like other than Ryan Reynolds is buried, where like I was like breathing weird. Like when the kid from Nightmare on Elm Street's getting pushed in the cage and you're inside there with him. I couldn't even handle it.
Totally. You fight for this movie all the time, and when I watched it, I was like, I totally get why you were fighting for it, because this movie's first of all, it's way better than I thought it was before you told me about it, and then second of all, it was way different than I expected. Not from what you explained it to me, but it was way different than I thought it was before anyone explained it to me. I just expected something different.
And the other thing is Kevin Smith has a back catalog of great movies. I mean, I like them, and people always bring up Mallrats and Clerks and all this other shit. But I'm like, dude, fucking Red State is like the one we should be talking about. This thing, and
we have our movies we fight for. Like I always fight for that found footage movie, The Bay, right, which almost made my list. And it's the same thing. It's like, when you go into it, I'm like, Kevin Smith horror, like, come on, like, because I hated Tusk. So I don't know. But anyway, I was like, but The Bay, like found footage, come on, I've not watched found footage anymore, but they're not what you expect they are. These are movies that are different than you think, and I think Red State's an amazing movie. My number 8 is Hereditary.
You moved it.
I moved it higher.
You sneaky bitch.
And I removed it higher because I remembered that as much as I love this movie, as we talked about when we reviewed it, I hate the ending.
Yeah,
so
there you go, breaking hearts.
I was like, wait, why? I had this movie way up like at 4 or 3, and I was like, wait, I forgot that I think the ending is absolutely terrible. So I had to move it up, but it doesn't take anything away from the fact that it's a breakthrough movie. That it was the first time in a long time that a movie had the reaction for me of everyone coming to me and saying you had to see it the way they must have done with like The Exorcist or Jaws or whatever. And the fact that it was sort of an art house movie that pulled off that that thrill ride blockbuster move. Like, that was crazy that it did that.
I remember that ad they had where it was showing people's heart rates throughout the movie. I love marketing like that. Do more shit like that.
Genius marketing.
All right, so you got...
But you can talk about Ratatouille when you get to it. What do you got at 7?
7, I got The Wailing.
Tell me about it.
Man, this was one of those... A lot of the movies, it's so weird how we watch movies now, because The Wailing was one where I was like, I know I'm going to like this.
Yes.
It's just the runtime was the biggest turnoff.
Totally.
So it was one of those... I started watching it on my computer monitor,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, okay, I'm digging this. This isn't bad. And then I knew... I think it was right before or maybe at the halfway point where I was like, I need to watch this on a bigger screen because it's going to get... Like, I just knew it was going to get crazy.
Yep.
And it was one of those endings, like much like Hereditary, where the big reveal happens. And you kind of expect it because you're along with the detective, but it's still so frightening because they went there. They're like, this, basically, we're going to show you what you think you're going to see, and it's going to scare the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But it was I love these longer horror films. Like, I know sometimes they can be a drag and like, so, you know,
You need a few of them.
but I think a handful of them throughout the year where like you get heavily invested, that's not bad.
We got some much longer shit coming up further on the list.
We got one that's very long, but
So, yeah, I agree.
it's probably the most detective-y film I think I got on my
Yes.
list, which is always nice to have a little flavor.
But no, it's and again, very unsettling. So like, our list is like, there's a lot of these movies don't pull their punches, which I like. You know,
The people got real this year.
because I feel like
this
it
decade.
Chapter 2, for example, pulled a lot of punches that it didn't need to pull.
Yeah.
And these movies, at least the ones we've covered so far, haven't for the most part. So I think that's really cool. I have We Are Still Here at 7. So We Are Still Here is that Barbara Crampton haunted house, ashes, burning ghosts, movie. And it's a very slow burn movie, but the reason I have it on here is because, first of all, I have it way up high because it's an amazing film. Like, it's just amazingly built. But I think the main reason I have it on here is because it once in a while I need from horror something that feels like ultra adult.
Yeah.
like really serious, like Possession 1981 film, or like Exorcist 3, where it's grappling with problems that, like, because let's be honest, when you're watching Final Destination 5, you're just there for, the mayhem. You're not like there for whatever. And then when you're watching a movie like Revenge or a high concept movie like Mandy or whatever, you might be getting backstory and really caring about the characters or whatever, but it's kind of running along one track, where the track is like in Revenge, she's getting revenge, and you're trying to figure out if she's going to pull it off or not, and you're rooting for her. So that's the track. Everything you learn about her, even unrelated details about her past, all becomes relevant to her quest for revenge. So everything kind of feeds. It's just like a pyramid. Everything's leading to that top stone they're placing on the monument, right? We Are Still Here is messy the way life is. It's like I don't know how to describe it, but it's not polished, but it's super adult. That's the thing. It's ultra adult. I have this phrase in my head about like what it means, and it just gives you that feeling like that I got when I listened to George C. Scott and his friend talk to each other in Exorcist 3. Those dialogue scenes that I could just watch for hours. This movie has that, and not many horror movies in the decade did, and I think it's the best one that did. So it's on there. All right, what do you got at 6?
Number 6 is our other haunted mansion.
Yes.
I actually, and I know maybe people would consider this TV show, but I didn't.
So let's just get this out of the way. We allowed ourselves one TV show each because there were a couple TV shows, not like Black Mirror or Creepshow, whatever, but there were a couple TV shows that just felt like mega movies.
Yeah.
That they arbitrarily chopped into chapters and made TV
shows.
show, but you could watch them as a movie. As a matter of fact, the one I'm going to say, I think we both have on our list later, they showed it MoMA as a movie, right?
Which is nutty,
right? But still, like, I mean, I think in the directors' heads they see it as a movie, and then it gets chopped for consumption, right?
Yeah.
So
my pick is, of course, The Haunting of Hill House. I went with Haunting of Hill House because out of I think there's one other movie on there. It like that felt like an event. And like especially towards the end of this decade when like we were just getting a ton of movies thrown at us like really fast. This one kind of like held its grasp on everything.
You could move in.
You could move in. You could move in. But it had people talking for a good amount of time, which I think in today's standards of how much shows and movies are released is saying something.
So I think Shirley Jackson has gotten a well-deserved, renaissance of attention. She's the author of Hill House, and so at this point, it's not everyone kind of knows who she. It's like what happened with Robert Johnson in blues music. No one knew who he was, and then eventually everyone knows who he is. But she deserves it, and it's one of my favorite horror novels ever written, up there with Dracula, Frankenstein. Like it's that good, right? So I'm never going to object to that kind of material going in, but when you're dealing with that kind of material, to get it right, to do it well, is so hard. And the fact that they did it is a miracle.
And it had a lot of like pretty iconic moments. Like I think if you did a montage of scariest shit throughout the whole decade, you're gonna get a couple of shots from The Haunting of Hill House.
Agreed. You're absolutely agreed. I had the same. So what do you got next?
Rock and roll. Number 5. Now, this should be on your list. If not, feel free to knock off what you have at number 5 and put that there because that's where it rightfully belongs.
Oh, wait. Sorry. I was looking at your list. My bad.
Oh, it was your 6.
Back up. My 6 is Tigers Are Not Afraid.
Oh, I never got around to that one
So
yet.
Tigers Are Not Afraid is it. Here's the thing. This movie is so original and so meant. Remember when you were... I can't even say it because I think I'll spoil one of your choices, but... This is a movie that's really, really scary, but you go on a journey with these characters in a way that I don't think I've seen in a movie in a long, long time. Like imagine how you would have felt if you had gotten to interview Regan from The Exorcist in real life, like Regan McNeil pretends she exists, right? But you got to interview her like 2 months after the exorcism, right? Like she had just recovered it. She remembers all of it. And she gets to tell you, you get to like, how, describe what it was like going through that, whatever. That experience is what watching this movie is like.
Wow.
It's just an incredible film.
That pitch sold me on it instantly.
All right. What do you got next?
Number 5, I think let's keep it on the Shudder train. Yeah. And let's go with Terrified.
That's what I was going to say. I didn't want to spoil yours.
Ooh, buddy. And not to be confused with Terrifier, which I did not care.
Terrifier's got moments. But
it's got a moment. But Terrified, holy shit, dude. Like, again, I watched that at your house, broad daylight.
Yeah.
And it still scared the shit out of me.
Yep.
It is probably... I honestly think it's probably... Because Hereditary for me was one like the scariest film of the year. And then I think, I honest to God, I think Terrified probably edges it out.
I think you're, well, I think that's a tie, but I think the fact that that's a tie says something because that's a high threshold.
It's got some of the scariest horror movie moments. It's probably, it's got, I think, yeah, I really do think
that
it probably,
that
little kid, and then the out of focus monster running into focus. Yeah, I rewatched it. Like I loaded up Shudder and went to that scene, and I still like I had like braced myself like while it was buffering. It was like roulette. I was just like, when's it gonna play? When's it gonna play? I think it's one of the. I think it's Terrified is the. I'll say it's the scariest, but what tied with Hereditary. I mean, every horror fan's got to watch this one.
But really, really good. I did not particularly like the ending of that movie, but I love everything else about it.
The end, yeah, that last shot is kind of bus ass, but everything else is so well done, and it scared me in the broad daylight. Like, it's got to be on the list.
My 5 was Get Out, so we can go to your 4.
Okay, that works. Oh, my 4 is Hereditary, so we can...
So my 4 is Black Coat's Daughter. Now, here's the thing.
That wasn't a lot of...
I don't think you've seen Black Coat.
No, but it's the one... It's sort of like Hell House, LLC. It's one of those films that a lot of people really love.
Do you know who's in Black Coat's Daughter?
I'm going to probably kick myself in the pants when you
tell
me.
So it's Emma Roberts, but then it's Sabrina Spellman.
She's in it?
Yeah. So here's the thing: I'm gonna fight for this movie because I saw it on a lot of lists that were like best 100, but I didn't see it high up on anyone's list that as high as I'm putting it, and it's only 70 something on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think is a crime because I think this movie is a masterpiece. But so first of all, it's by Osgood Perkins, who's Anthony Perkins' son, that everyone talks about, but like he's just a really
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, he did. Oh my God, it'll come to me, but he did the I'm the Pretty Girl Who Lives in the House.
Okay.
So he's really good at the slow burn. This is less slow burn than that one was. But Nick, this is this sinister, satanic movie where this girl there's a furnace that is the horror version of the furnace, the scary furnace in Home Alone.
Yeah.
But when it lights up, it's because the girl thinks that it's Satan making it talk with flames or whatever, and she's beheading people to worship this furnace. But then Satan is actually there, maybe. And then there's an exorcism, but it's the first time I've ever seen an exorcism where the exorcism works and the evil spirit goes away and is going out the window, and the exorcised person looks up at it and goes, "Wait, don't go."
What?
Like, because she wants the evil force. She didn't want to be exorcised. It's amazing. The scary scenes are scary as hell. It's so stylish. The acting is incredible. It's one of the best horror movies I've ever seen. It's incredibly well done. It's really, really scary. And the ending is heartbreaking. So it's and here's the thing. I'm gonna spoil minor spoiler because this like
spoilers don't bother me.
Tangentially goes to, well, you're not the only one listening, but tangentially hopefully you're not the only one listening. Tangentially to the ending. I won't go through the particulars of the ending, but one of the things I love most about this is this movie sticks this perfect landing where the real sadness is to go through. It's not to go through. That's the thing that Stephen King's so good at, right? What Stephen King's so good at is you go through this hellish situation like with Christine, right? And think about how Christine ends. That there's a new couple that's blossomed. The people who belong together got to be together. Some people paid a price, like that's life, but like they found each other and they're it's not better for it because you don't want to go through that thing, but they're stronger for it, right? This one is how it is more true to life, where you go through all this, and the heartbreaking thing is at the end, it was all for absolutely nothing. It's all for nothing. And that's a feeling everyone has to grapple with in life, but it's rare for a horror movie. It's easy for a horror movie to do it in a scene. They do it all the time. Like every Saw trap. Oh, why'd you do that? It was for nothing. You're just going to die over here.
Right.
Like it's easy to do in a scene, but it's hard to do in a way that feels like life. And that's what this movie does. Amazing fucking movie. All right.
Well, you sold me on Sabrina Spellman. I love that show.
What's your 3?
My 3 is actually Let Me In.
Okay.
So we hit that one pretty much. And the only thing I had to really say about that was like, that was the one rare occasion where you're like, well, let's watch the original. The original is better. And then when it was over, you went, oh, okay. Well, maybe they're equally fucking good. Yeah.
I mean, you could make an argument that they're just. I think the original is a little better, but it's so close that it's almost.
It just depends on which
meaningless.
On which scenes you thought were executed better, because there's a little bit of difference in some of them, but it just depends. All right, so that's number 3.
All right, my 3 is The Endless. We covered this in detail in a previous podcast, so I won't. You, as anyone who heard that before knows, there's some particular. So like Dante's Inferno, everyone in Dante's Inferno, in his 9 circles of hell, everyone gets a customized punishment, right? So like whatever you did in life, that's what you did. Like Judas, who betrayed Christ, is being chewed on for eternity by Satan. I don't know why Dante thought that fit the crime of being a Judas, but he's being consumed for. I mean, it's like being in the Sarlacc pit or whatever that thing's called.
Oh yeah.
So there's something that happens to a character in this movie that bothers me more than anything that's ever happened to a character in a film that we've talked about before. He's stuck in a time loop, but his time loop is super short.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying. But I just think it's. So here's the thing, and this is the weird part because we talked about like a lot through this, right? So like a lot of these movies, you've got these great writers or great plots or great things that impact these things. And if you look at a Shirley Jackson or like whatever, these are great writers. I would argue Jordan Peele is now a great writer, right? But like the most underrepresented great horror talent in literature translated to film is Lovecraft. Almost no one has done a great Lovecraft movie. And when they do, they're not doing Lovecraft. Like The Mist is one of the best Lovecraft movies, but it's not Lovecraft, it's Stephen King.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like Lovecraft, either it's a bad Lovecraft movie or it's a good Lovecraft movie but done by another writer, so now it feels more like Stephen King than Lovecraft, so what the hell. Right? And then you never get the in-between. Like Dagon, which is one of my favorite Lovecraft movies, I fight for the movie all the time. I think it's a really, really good movie, but I would never put on a list of 20 best anything because it's got a lot of flaws, right? So like Lovecraft never gets that kind of thing. Like Event Horizon is a Lovecraftian movie, but you would never know it, right? Same with The Thing. But so he never gets credit, even he just gets an influence. This is a truly Lovecraftian movie, truly well done, truly feeling like Lovecraft. And just for that, I had to put it high up on my list.
Damn.
Right.
That was a my goodness. Mr. George goes to Washington, dude.
Hit me with two.
I was sold on that one. Are our number twos and ones?
Yeah,
the
I think
same?
we're
So now
the same on
now we can just join rings.
Yes.
Twin Peaks returns.
Yes.
Man, I know that's always. I'm ready for people to say that's nothing bullshit. This is a movie.
He's a director. He thinks of these things as movies. It's a movie in his head. This is a movie, and let's be honest. If I'm being honest, the God of Light scene and that whole episode terrified me more than anything that I've seen in a movie or on TV in the last 10 years. Like of the entire decade, it bothered me so much when I was watching it. And I'm a huge David Lynch fan, but like that episode unsettled me so much. I was literally in this state of, it'd be like that state where you drink too much or you got too high or something like that and you can't do anything about it. Now you're just stuck.
You're just like, please stop.
Like I was like, wait, I don't want to tell anyone how much this has bothered me. I don't want to talk about it. I just want to sit and think about it, but I don't want to be alone. But I don't like it was.
You try to eat some food.
There's nothing to do, right? Like there's nowhere to go with this feeling. Like you're just like spinning around. Like what? Like there's no outlet for this. So like it was that impactful, right? I mean, it's just it's terrifying. The acting, are you kidding me? I mean, we would have to take another hour to go through all the actors and the nuances of what they did. You
Jim
got
Belushi.
the guy from Scream, what's his name?
Oh, Matthew Lillard.
Yeah.
Which is weird because I mentioned SLC Punk earlier. It's like, wow, this is a Matthew Lillard episode, dude.
This is a Lillard fest. So you got, and then Harry Dean Stanton who passed away, Laura Dern, Kyle MacLachlan. I mean, just David Lynch himself has somehow become a good actor. Like it's just packed with just riches beyond imagination.
Yeah, no, I never was a fan of the original Twin Peaks, but like I remember watching this one. We did like the Hollywood Mansions tour, and then like went and got some tacos. And I actually because they released the first two episodes at once, I actually watched the first two episodes of Twin Peaks with a huge headache.
Remember.
Which is funny because a lot of people watch David Lynch and get a headache. But I went into the film with a headache, and I still enjoyed it. And then the God of Light episode speaks for itself. And then the
first two episodes, that was with that crazy box and the alien attacks while they're making out on the couch, right?
Yeah. And it's like hissing. But then the way it ended.
Oh, the ending.
I mean, it's probably got one of the best horror movie screams of all time.
Yes.
I mean, even just saying, what was he asked? Like, what year is it?
Yep.
Or what's the year or whatever. Like, no, oh my God.
What year is it is what he says.
Just that.
Just that lost feeling. And then that scream, you're right. And here's the thing, like, a lot of times with acting, you can see the strings behind it, even with the best actors, right? I would argue, like, I love Blacko's Daughter, but at the end, I feel like I'm watching Emma Roberts and she's 98.5% nailing it and 1.5% like I can see like an acting class in there.
Yeah.
That scream is 1,000% convincing. That
dude,
scream is like
it ends on, dude. Like, Oh my god.
There's no acting class in that scream.
Dude,
that
it's like
scream
it's
is
like going on the craziest roller coaster of your life, and you're like, wow, I don't think I can scream anymore. Then you look over to your left, and the person sitting next to you is dead.
Right.
So then you scream one more time. Like that's the feeling.
right. It'd be like it was the sound of someone taking someone's soul and running it through a cheese grater.
Right.
It was just horrible.
What year is it, man? That gives me chills thinking
All
about
right,
it.
number one, best
lift-
movie of the decade.
Of the decade.
Yes.
And this one is delicious.
This one is delicious and divisive.
Divisive, delicious. Double D's, delicious and divisive.
Yeah.
The Witch.
The Witch.
The Witch.
The Witch is. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot left to say about this movie. You either love it or you hate it. You either think it's scary, you think it's boring. Like I get.
We
all
loved
this.
it. I remember the people in the theater in front of us, like they were like, "That was stupid," and
Yep.
I was like, I remember it was the one time where I wanted to be like, "So what's it like to be a dumb who doesn't get it?"
I had the same experience. I had people who walked out and they were actively pissed that they had spent money to see it. Right?
Yeah.
Like they were just really. And they were walking out, and it was weird because I live in Los Angeles now, and I have for a long time. But I came from Ohio, and I was back in Ohio, personal reasons, and it was snowing, and I hadn't seen snow in forever, right? So I
Yeah.
drove out in the snow to see this movie. Try driving in snow after you haven't driven in snow in 10 years.
Yeah, that's rough.
Not the best thing in the world,
rough.
right? And then. I got to this theater and it was just walking out and it was this dark, snowy night. There were only like 8 people in the theater, right? And there's just, of all the people, I loved the movie, and then everyone else who watched it hated it, right? And then I just watched the people walked out, and I literally, they're going out the door does a chime thing, and they just turn to each other, and they like, the guy just throws up his arms. He's like, well, I just don't get it,
Yeah.
right? And I get that. I get not getting it, but I also get getting it because this movie is such a sweet spot for one of the things that I think gets undersold in horror the most. And George Romero brought this in spades. It's wanting to do it right, but having to do it right under bad conditions, because horror movies are they're frowned on, and they never get legitimized, and they never get the Oscars unless Anthony Hopkins is in them, and like
Right.
that or you tame them down so much where it's like fairy tale, like A Shape of Water situation, right?
Or
so
Jordan
like,
Peele.
yeah, right, or Jordan Peele, but like it's rare, right? And this movie really, you could tell that Robert Eggers wanted to get it right. He wanted to get.
It took him a while to make it. Like
Yeah, it took
5
him
or 7 years.
forever
something like that.
right, exactly. And that's what I'm talking about is, that kind of effort is I don't get, like, if someone put that kind of effort into, if someone put that kind of effort into doing a painting, if they told me they worked for 7 years on a painting, the worst reaction I would have to them showing me the painting in their house is, oh, that's really great, and then thinking to myself, that's not that great, and then walking out, whatever, because I have to respect the effort at that point, right?
Right.
This one, you don't need to do that because it's an amazing movie in its own right, but like, I don't get coming at it with that high level of hostility just based on the fact that someone spent 7 years bringing you a horror movie with all the details that were right, set in a place where he put it in the hardest place he could set it for himself. Right, because that's where it belonged, that's where it deserved to be, and then you come at it and you're like, "Fuck you!" Like, that makes no sense to me. So
Even the music, I think they used only instruments
Totally.
that were like made of
All
wood
of
or
that,
something like that.
right.
In fact, I think what's the composer? He had that weird box that made weird noises, and even Alex Taylor, who did the theme song for us, like
Yeah, I forget,
he even made one of those too.
the
'Cause, like,
theremin, yeah.
no, it wasn't the theremin.
No.
It was like theremin's like that sci-fi, like that UFO.
Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
It was like that.
He told us about
It was
that.
some weird thing that just makes gross noises. And so every aspect of it, even I think a lot of people probably didn't like the fact that they used what was that, like Old English, like what's that that style of whatever.
course.
But I liked it. Like he stuck to the guns. He was like, guess what? This is where we're at. You're living it, sucker.
Well, it's all hypocrites. If he had put it in that era and had him wearing jeans and speaking like regular English, everyone would have shit on him for, for having it be like not make any sense. So it's not. But regardless of the defense of it, which it didn't need anyway, because it's our list, right? But here's the crux of it is. It's amazingly well done. It's gorgeous to look at. It's truly scary, and I think it's endlessly interesting. This is a movie like the same thing that Fincher gives me with his best movies or whatever, where I feel like I could happily watch this movie once a year till I die, right? And I think it's very rare to get that in any movie of any kind. Like when I get it in a genre movie, like I did with Skyfall, I appreciate it. I can watch Skyfall once a year.
And it gives you that Beetlejuice ending. Let's put in the jump in the line song. When
you wanted an optimistic ending. She's very empowered.
You're very right. This is probably the most optimistic. She's like, guess what? We're gonna have tons of butter, bitches.
This episode then ends on a deliciously happy ending.
If I had to start my own coven and the devil's big selling point was butter, I would name my coven the Butter Bitches. Because we're rolling in it, dude.
Of course.
No, so that's the decade.
Yeah, that's the decade, and there were a lot of movies that didn't get in there, but here's the thing: like when I went back and I looked at the list or whatever, I felt like when I did the stats on it, that's when I got really, really hopeful about horror and also to some extent movie making again, because I didn't expect so many original films.
Dude,
so many films with not only are they not remakes or sequels, they don't have sequels to them, right? Like no one's gonna come around and make The Lighthouse 2. Right? These movies are standalone propositions, right? And I think that's amazing. Like you're not gonna see Green Room 2. Like that's not a thing, right? So,
Blue Room.
Blue. So it and just from the fact that you have so much originality and so many people trying so many brave and interesting things, I think it's just good to end on a hopeful note.
I agree 100%. I'm glad to see. It's funny until when we started the episode, like there's just so many original things on here that whenever I see people talk about like horrors, big original stuff. We got a whole fucking decade of this, dude. We got like even some of your picks I still haven't seen.
Right, totally.
So I don't know. I'm loving it. Oh, here's what I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
Out of all of these original films, which one do you think is going to get rebooted in 2020?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, I don't know if anything from this list is, but if we want to play the game of, so is the game which?
Because technically they are restarting Scream.
Yeah, that's true. So let's play this game on the way out. Let's say if you had to guess, are we doing the next year? Is that what you're talking about?
2020, like out of in 2020.
So in the next
which
year, what
is going to get the first reboots?
Right. I don't know. I mean, Scream, obviously we already know, but I it's weird because like I said, these are so many original, like so many of them are blind alley, dead end, like propositions creatively to try to expand on.
I would see Sinister. I would see
yeah, I mean,
it'd have to be like that or The Conjuring. Those are the only ones that I could see them being like a reimagining.
Yeah, from our list, that's the only thing I could see. Now, the guy who wrote the material that became Let the Right One In is still an active writer who has written further stories in that universe. A lot like, I forget the guy's name, but the one who wrote The Ring and Dark Water and whatever, and people don't realize, they just think all movies going out of Japan look the same, but that's actually, it's the reason those themes, they're thematically similar, is the same guy writing novels, right?
Yeah.
So it's not, he has done material. I wouldn't be surprised to see something, I wouldn't be shocked to see something further out of the Let the Right One In universe, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Because he's just an active and really good horror writer. I can't believe The Ritual isn't on here. It just hit me.
That was the one. It just, I liked it, but it didn't grab me like anything.
Yeah, I can't think of anything on my list that I would bump, but I remember really liking it. Anyway, it just jumped in my head because it reminds me of he's the Scandinavian, just like the guy who wrote Let the Right One In. But yeah, I think that would be my guess for the universe, and I wouldn't mind that. I also wouldn't mind seeing some more the happenings in the Crimson Peak mansion.
Let's see some of that. Let's get some more gothic horror in there. That's what I want to see. And you know what? For the listeners, let us know what you think.
Yes.
With a 5-star review on iTunes. Or my favorite, I actually prefer this. Screenshot it, tag us on your Insta stories. Let us know what your top films for the decade were. In fact, if you could boil it down to just one, let us know what that shit is, because I'm curious. And if you have any ill feelings about us putting Twin Peaks on there, just disregard it. Don't respond to us about that. Just let us know what your favorite of the decade was, and we'll keep moving forward into the roaring 20s. So
the 20s. What year is this?
What year is this? All right. Till next time, stay scary. Watch a bunch of movies. I gotta watch some myself, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye, guys.